I never thought my own family would try to drug me at my wife's memorial dinner. My name is Drake Griffiths, and I buried my wife 3 months ago. Last night at Margaret's memorial dinner, I caught my daughter-in-law dropping something in my wine. She wanted me to drink it before signing papers that would give her a $15 million estate. So I swapped our glasses and watched her drug herself instead. What happened next sent her to prison and saved my fortune from the most vicious family betrayal I've ever seen. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. Because what happened next involved me switching places with my twin, infiltrating the hospital, and exposing a fraud so sophisticated it nearly destroyed 3 decades of immigrant family legacy. 3 months ago, I lost Margaret. 52 years of marriage ended in a hospital room at Stanford Medical Center. The funeral cost me $43,000. The headstone was Italian marble. Margaret deserved the best, but apparently my family saw dollar signs where I saw grief. It started small. Ryan, my son, began visiting more often, always with Melissa, always asking about my plans, always suggesting I should simplify my affairs. "Dad, you're 78, Ryan would say. "Maybe it's time to let us help with the finances." I'm 68, not 78. But I didn't correct him. Not yet. Melissa had this way of touching my arm when she talked. "Drake, we're just worried about you rattling around in this big house alone." The house is 4,200 square feet in Palo Alto, worth about $4.8 million. Margaret and I designed every room. "Maybe you should consider assisted living," Melissa suggested, "somewhere with people your age." I built Data Vault from my garage. We revolutionized data security for Fortune 500 companies. I sold it 4 years ago for more money than most people see in 10 lifetimes. But somehow, I'm too old to manage my own checkbook. The red flags started appearing everywhere. Mail going missing, financial statements arriving late, Ryan asking detailed questions about my will. Then I discovered something interesting about Melissa's background. She used to work for Meridian Pharmaceuticals, sales rep for controlled substances. She knows exactly which medications do what to the human body. Last week, she brought me papers to sign. "Just updating your medical directives, Drake, in case of emergency." I read every line. Hidden in the legal language was a clause giving her power of attorney if I was deemed mentally incompetent. The witness signature was already notarized, dated for today. "Don't worry about the details," she said. "Ryan's lawyer drew these up. Very standard." Ryan's never mentioned having a lawyer. That's when I started paying closer attention to my security system. Data Vault taught me that information is power, and everyone leaves digital footprints. My house has 12 hidden cameras, motion sensors, audio recording, all feeding to encrypted servers that even the FBI would struggle to crack. Last Tuesday, I caught Melissa in my study. She was photographing bank statements with her phone. She didn't see me watching from the hallway. She also didn't notice the camera recording her every move. But the real revelation came yesterday morning. Dr. Sullivan called about my recent prescription requests. "Drake, I'm confused. Your son's wife called asking about Rohypnol prescriptions. Said you were having severe sleep issues." I sleep 6 hours every night. Same schedule for 20 years. She wanted to know about dosage amounts and detection times. Very specific questions. Rohypnol, the date rape drug. Odorless, colorless, causes temporary amnesia and muscle weakness. Perfect for getting someone to sign documents they'd never remember authorizing. "I told her I don't prescribe that medication," Dr. Sullivan continued. "But Drake, if someone's asking these questions..." I thanked him and hung up. Then I called Margaret's memorial dinner for tonight. 127 guests. The cream of Silicon Valley society, federal judges, tech executives, people who've known me for decades. If Melissa was planning something, she'd pick the perfect public venue. Everyone would witness my declining mental state. Except I had something she didn't know about. Those security cameras, they upload everything to the cloud in real time. Every word, every action, every crushed pill and every wine glass. Tonight wasn't just Margaret's memorial, it was going to be Melissa's confession. The memorial dinner was set for 7:30 at the Meridian Club, $850 for the private dining room. Margaret would have loved the elegance. By 6 p.m., I was reviewing the documents Melissa wanted me to sign. She'd been busy. The revised will transferred 80% of my estate to Ryan for family stability. The medical power of attorney gave Melissa authority over all health decisions if I showed signs of cognitive decline. Most interesting was the third document, a trust transfer moving my investment portfolio to professional management. Guess who the managing trustee would be? Melissa had covered every angle. If I signed tonight, she'd control $15.2 million by tomorrow morning. The papers were professionally drafted, real lawyers, real notaries. She'd spent serious money setting this up, but she'd made one critical mistake. I'd already changed my will 6 months ago. The real version is locked in a safety deposit box at Wells Fargo. Only my actual attorney has access. The documents Melissa prepared? Worthless. But she didn't know that. Around 6:30, they arrived to help me get ready. Ryan looked nervous, kept checking his phone, wouldn't make eye contact. Boy. Melissa wore a black dress that cost more than most people's cars. Her Hermes clutch probably cost $3,800. "Drake, you look tired," she said, touching my forehead like I was a child. "Are you sure you're up for tonight? We could handle things for you." "I'm fine. Because if you need to leave early, I brought the papers we discussed. We could take care of everything quietly." She patted her clutch when she said papers. "The sooner we get your affairs organized, the better," Ryan added. "Mom would have wanted that." Margaret would have thrown them both out of the house. "Let's just focus on honoring your mother tonight," I said. We drove to the club in Ryan's Tesla. Melissa sat in back, constantly checking her phone. Text messages, lots of them. At one red light, I caught a glimpse of her screen. "He suspects something," was the last message visible. Interesting. The Meridian Club buzzed with familiar faces. Judge Patricia Wells, who'd officiated Ryan's wedding. Tech executives from my old network. Dr. Sullivan and his wife. Everyone offering condolences. Everyone remembering Margaret fondly. Everyone creating the perfect witnesses for what Melissa had planned. She guided me to the head table like I was a fragile grandfather. Made a show of arranging my medication next to my water glass. Except I don't take any medication. "Drake brought his evening pills," she announced to nearby guests. "He's been having some memory issues lately." Lies, but plausible ones. The wine service began around 8:15. Opus 1 Cabernet, $375 per bottle. Margaret's favorite. I watched Melissa carefully. She positioned herself to my right. Perfect angle to access my glass without drawing attention. During the appetizer course, she excused herself to the restroom. Her clutch stayed at the table. I waited 30 seconds, then opened it. Inside, lipstick, credit cards, and a small pill container labeled Zolpidem, sleep aid. But the pills inside weren't white like Zolpidem. They were blue. Cross-scored. Exactly what Dr. Sullivan had described. Rohypnol. Professional grade. I closed the clutch and returned to my seat. When Melissa came back, she was different. Focused. Ready. The main course arrived. Conversations grew louder. Perfect cover for discreet actions. She leaned close. "Drake, I brought those papers we discussed, just in case you want to handle them tonight." "After the toast," I said. "Margaret deserves our full attention first." Her smile looked genuine, but her eyes were calculating something. 9:20 p.m. The toast preparation began. Our server filled wine glasses around the table. Melissa positioned herself perfectly between me and the other guests. She thought I wasn't watching when she opened her clutch. She thought I didn't see her crush 2 pills with her knife handle. She thought I didn't notice her dropping the powder into my glass and stirring it with her finger. She thought I was just a grieving old man who'd lost his edge. She thought wrong. When she looked away to wave at someone across the room, I switched our glasses. Hers was now in front of me. Mine, with its dissolved cargo, sat before her. The toast was about to begin, and Melissa was about to discover exactly what she'd planned for me. Judge Wells stood to begin the toast. The room quieted. Melissa leaned over and whispered, Drake, after everyone toasts Margaret, I really think we should step outside. Handle those papers while you're feeling clear-headed. Clear-headed. Before the drugs kicked in. Of course, I said quietly. She smiled. Perfect victim compliance. But I wasn't finished talking. Melissa, I've been thinking about what you said last week. About Margaret's jewelry. Her expression shifted slightly. What about it? You mentioned the pieces should stay in the family. For future generations. Well, yes, that makes sense. I'm curious which pieces you had in mind. She glanced around nervously. Other guests were listening now. Just the important ones. The diamond necklace. The Cartier watch. The necklace Margaret wore to our wedding? Exactly. The one worth $43,000? Her pause lasted too long. I wouldn't know the value, Drake. But she did know. Because she'd had it appraised 3 weeks ago. I'd found the paperwork in her car when she visited. Of course, I said. I'm sure you're thinking of Margaret's wishes. Absolutely. Judge Wells raised her glass. To Margaret Griffiths, a woman who brought grace to every room she entered. Everyone stood, glasses lifted. I watched Melissa carefully. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for her wine. She taught us all that true strength comes from kindness, Judge Wells continued. Melissa's glass touched her lips. And that family means everything. She took a small sip, then another. I felt a cold satisfaction watching her drink. To Margaret, the room chorused. Everyone drank, including Melissa. She set her glass down and turned to me. Drake, shall we step outside now while the evening is still pleasant? Actually, I'd like to stay for the stories. People loved Margaret. I want to hear what they remember. Her frustration flickered for just a moment. Of course, but the papers can wait. Dr. Sullivan approached our table. Drake, how are you holding up? Better than expected. Margaret would be proud of how strong you're being, Melissa interjected smoothly. He's been having some difficult days, memory lapses, confusion about finances. Dr. Sullivan looked concerned. Really? I hadn't noticed anything unusual. It comes and goes, Melissa said. That's what makes it so dangerous. What kind of memory issues? Dr. Sullivan asked me directly. I'm not experiencing any memory issues, I said clearly. Melissa laughed softly. See, he doesn't even remember our conversations about this. But Dr. Sullivan was studying her now. Something in his expression had changed. Melissa, didn't you call my office about sleep medications? Her face went pale. What? You asked specific questions about Rohypnol for Drake's insomnia. The conversation around us grew quiet. I don't recall that, Melissa said weakly. Really? Because I have the call logged. Tuesday morning, 10:43 a.m. She looked trapped. Maybe I was researching options. Without Drake's knowledge, Ryan jumped in. Dad has been asking us to help with medical decisions. No, I said firmly. I haven't. The table was completely quiet now. Melissa reached for her wine glass again. Bigger sip this time. I could see her calculating, wondering why she still felt alert, why the medication wasn't working. Drake, she said urgently, I really think we should discuss those papers privately. What papers? Dr. Sullivan asked. Estate planning documents, Ryan said quickly. At Margaret's memorial dinner? Judge Wells had been listening from across the table. Did someone mention estate planning? Melissa's breathing was getting faster. It's not important right now. Actually, I said calmly, I think it's very important. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a folder. These are the papers Melissa wants me to sign tonight. Judge Wells moved closer. May I? I handed her the documents. Her face went hard as she read. Drake, these transfer almost everything you own to Ryan and Melissa. That's the idea, Melissa said desperately. He's not capable of managing finances anymore. Based on what medical evaluation? Dr. Sullivan demanded. Melissa was sweating now. She grabbed her wine glass and drained it. He had episodes, Ryan said weakly. Confusion, forgetting conversations. I've never forgotten any conversation, I said, but I have been recording them. The silence was deafening. Recording? Melissa whispered. Data Vault taught me that information is power. My house has a very sophisticated security system. She stood up abruptly. The room spun slightly for her. "I need some air," she said, but she stumbled. Judge Wells caught her arm. "Are you all right?" "Fine, just the wine." "How much have you had?" Dr. Sullivan asked professionally. "Just this glass." But I could see the confusion in her eyes. The drug was working exactly as intended, just not on the intended target. "Melissa," I said quietly, "maybe you should sit down." She looked at me with dawning horror. She finally understood what had happened. Melissa gripped the back of her chair. The room was starting to sway. "I don't understand," she said weakly. "I only had one glass." Dr. Sullivan moved closer. "Let me check your pulse." "No, I'm fine, just tired." But her words were beginning to slur. Judge Wells was still reading the estate documents. "Drake, these papers would give Melissa complete control over your medical decisions." "Interesting timing," I said. Melissa tried to focus on me. "What do you mean?" "Well, you're feeling dizzy after one glass of wine. If I'd signed those papers, you could have me declared mentally incompetent, based on similar symptoms." The realization hit her like a physical blow. You knew?" "I knew a lot of things, Melissa." I pulled out my phone and opened an app. "For instance, I know you've been photographing my financial statements." The screen showed security footage of her in my study, clear as daylight. "I know you called my doctor asking about Rohypnol." Dr. Sullivan nodded grimly. "Tuesday morning. Very specific questions. And I know what you put in my wine glass tonight." Ryan had gone completely white. "Dad, what are you talking about?" "Your wife drugged my wine with Rohypnol. She planned to have me sign these papers while unconscious." "That's impossible," Ryan said desperately. "Is it?" I gestured to Melissa, who was now holding onto the table for support. "Tell me, Ryan, how much do you know about your wife's pharmaceutical background?" Judge Wells looked up sharply. "Pharmaceutical?" Melissa worked for Meridian Pharmaceuticals, sales rep for controlled substances. She has access to drugs most people have never heard of. "Had access," Melissa corrected weakly. "Past tense." "Really? Because my security system logged you making phone calls to former colleagues." I scrolled through more footage on my phone. "Here's you calling Marcus Webb at Meridian, Wednesday afternoon." Melissa's face crumpled. "And here's you receiving a package from overnight delivery, Thursday morning." The package that contained the Rohypnol. Dr. Sullivan was taking her pulse. "Melissa, your heart rate is elevated. When did you last eat?" I can't remember." "That's interesting. Rohypnol causes short-term memory loss." Judge Wells set down the papers. "Drake, are you suggesting she drugged herself?" "I'm suggesting she drugged someone's wine. She just drank from the wrong glass." The pieces clicked for everyone simultaneously. Ryan stared at me in horror. "You switched the glasses." I protected myself. "But she could be seriously hurt." "She'll be fine. It's only 2 milligrams. The same dose she planned for me." Melissa tried to stand and immediately sat back down. "This isn't possible," she whispered. "What isn't possible?" "That a tech company founder understands surveillance? That someone who built a $340 million business might be smarter than you assumed?" I looked around the table. Every guest was staring. "Or is it impossible that your victim fought back?" Judge Wells was studying me carefully. "Drake, how long have you known about this?" "Suspected? 3 weeks. Confirmed? This morning when Dr. Sullivan called. And you let tonight happen anyway?" "I let her reveal her true intentions, in front of witnesses." "This is entrapment," Ryan said weakly. "No," Judge Wells corrected. "This is evidence." She turned to Dr. Sullivan. "How long does Rohypnol take to fully affect someone?" 15 to 30 minutes for peak effect." He checked his watch. "She drank about 12 minutes ago." Melissa was fighting to stay alert, but losing the battle. "I want to leave," she said. "I'm afraid that's not possible," a new voice said. Everyone turned. Detective Sarah Rodriguez was walking toward our table. "Mr. Griffiths called us 20 minutes ago. We've been watching from the bar." Melissa looked at me with pure hatred. "You planned this." "I planned to protect myself. You planned to commit a felony." The detective reached our table just as Melissa finally lost consciousness. The Meridian Club's elegant dining room had become a crime scene. Detective Rodriguez knelt beside Melissa's unconscious form, while Dr. Sullivan checked her vital signs. "Pulse is steady but slow. he reported, breathing is shallow but regular. Classic Rohypnol presentation. Judge Wells stood over the estate documents spread across our table. Detective, you need to see these papers. 127 guests watched in stunned silence. Some held up phones, recording everything. Ryan sat frozen, staring at his unconscious wife. "Dad," he whispered, "what have you done?" "I've done exactly nothing," I said calmly. "Your wife did this to herself." Detective Rodriguez looked up from Melissa. "Mr. Griffiths, you said you have video evidence?" I handed her my phone. "Everything's uploaded to secure servers. The cameras captured her crushing pills and dropping them in my wine glass." She scrolled through the footage. Her expression darkened. "Timestamp shows 8:47 p.m. Clear view of her actions. Dr. Sullivan was preparing an IV line. We need to get her to Stanford Medical. Rohypnol can cause respiratory depression." "Is she in danger?" Ryan asked frantically. "She'll be fine, but this needs hospital monitoring." As the paramedics arrived, conversations erupted around the room. "Did you hear? She drugged his wine? At his wife's memorial dinner? For $15 million? I always thought she was calculating." Ryan turned to me desperately. "Dad, people are recording this. This will be everywhere by morning." "Yes," I said, "it will. Her career will be ruined. Our reputation will be destroyed." "Your reputation was destroyed the moment you decided to drug your father for money. I didn't know she was going to... Didn't you?" I pulled out a folder of printed text messages. "These are from your phone, Ryan. 63 messages between you and Melissa planning tonight." His face went white. "How did you get those?" "I pay for your phone service. The account includes backup services." Judge Wells examined the messages. "Ryan, you wrote, 'Dad will never suspect anything if we do it at the memorial.' And here," I continued, "once he signs the papers, we can have him declared incompetent within a week." The entire room was listening now. "This message is interesting. Make sure the dosage isn't too high. We need him conscious enough to sign." Ryan looked around desperately. Every face stared back with disgust. "You don't understand," he said. "He's getting old. He needs protection." "From what?" Dr. Sullivan demanded. "Bad investments, scammers, gold diggers." "Like your wife?" Judge Wells asked coldly. The paramedics lifted Melissa onto a stretcher. She was completely unconscious now. "Mr. Griffiths," Detective Rodriguez said, "I need you to come to the station for a formal statement." "Of course." "Ryan Griffiths, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit elder abuse and fraud." "You can't arrest me! I'm the victim here." The detective read him his rights while the entire room watched. Tech executives who'd known our family for decades shook their heads in disgust. "Margaret must be rolling in her grave," someone whispered. "At her own memorial dinner," another voice added. "For money he was probably going to inherit anyway." I stood as they handcuffed Ryan. "Son, I want you to understand something." He looked at me with desperate hope. "I built Data Vault from nothing. I survived corporate warfare, hostile takeovers, and federal investigations. Did you really think your pharmaceutical sales rep wife could outmaneuver me? Dad, please. I loved your mother for 52 years. Tonight was supposed to honor her memory." I gestured around the room. Everyone was still watching. "Instead, you turned it into evidence of your greed." The paramedics wheeled Melissa toward the exit. Ryan followed in handcuffs. Judge Wells approached me. "Drake, are you all right?" "I'm fine, Patricia, just disappointed. What they attempted tonight, it's beyond comprehension. It's beyond forgiveness." She nodded grimly. "Those estate documents were sophisticated. They must have planned this for months. Longer than that." I showed her bank statements from my phone. "Melissa's been transferring small amounts from my account since January. 200 here, 500 there, amounts I wouldn't notice." "How much total?" $47,000. "That's a felony in itself." Dr. Sullivan joined us. "Drake, I have to ask, when did you first suspect?" "The day she asked about my will. Margaret wasn't even buried yet." "That should have been a red flag for everyone." "It was. I just chose to document everything instead of confronting them." "Why?" "Because accusations without proof destroy families, but proof without accusations destroys criminals." The room was finally starting to empty. Guests approached to offer support and share their shock. "Drake, if you need anything, we had no idea they were capable of this. Margaret would be proud of how you handled tonight." Judge Wells stayed until the end. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now they face justice. I mean with your family." I looked around the empty dining room. Melissa's wine glass still sat on our table, lipstick stain on the rim. My family died 3 months ago when Margaret passed away. What about Ryan? Ryan made his choice when he decided money was worth more than integrity. She squeezed my shoulder. "I'm sorry it came to this." "I'm not." "Really?" Margaret used to say that people show their true character during crisis. Tonight proved she was right. Joe. I picked up Melissa's wine glass and held it toward the light. "They thought grief made me weak. Instead, it made me careful." "And now?" I set down the glass and gathered the forged estate documents. "Now I go home to a house with very good security cameras, and I sleep better knowing exactly who my enemies are." The police station buzzed with activity at 11 p.m. Detective Rodriguez led me to a conference room while Ryan and Melissa were processed in separate areas. "Mr. Griffiths, let's start from the beginning." I opened my laptop and connected to the police station's Wi-Fi. Everything's in the cloud. 60 days of surveillance footage, phone records, financial transfers, and documented threats. She studied the screen as I navigated through folders. "This is extensive." Data Vault specialized in digital forensics, old habits. The first video showed Melissa in my study, photographing bank statements. When was this taken? November 2nd, 3 weeks ago, and we watched her systematically document every account number, every balance, every investment detail. She was thorough, Rodriguez admitted. Professionals usually are. The next video showed Melissa and Ryan in my kitchen. "Fast forward to the interesting part," I said. On screen, Melissa opened her laptop and showed Ryan something. "Can we hear this?" I adjusted the audio settings. "Transfer the investments first," Melissa's voice said clearly. "Then get him declared incompetent. The whole thing takes 2 weeks if we do it right." "What if he resists?" Ryan asked. "He won't remember resisting. That's the beauty of Rohypnol." Rodriguez looked disgusted. "They planned everything, including tonight's dosage." I showed her more footage from earlier today. This is Melissa crushing practice pills, testing how much powder dissolves completely in red wine. On screen, Melissa methodically tested different amounts until the wine looked normal. She ran experiments multiple times. She wanted the perfect dose, enough to make me compliant, not enough to kill me. How considerate. Dead people can't sign legal documents. Rodriguez took notes while I explained each video file. "Mr. Griffiths, how long have you known about their plan?" "I suspected something 3 weeks ago. I confirmed it this morning." "Why didn't you call police earlier?" "Suspicion isn't evidence. I needed them to actually attempt the crime." "That was risky." "Not really." I showed her my phone's emergency alert system. I programmed automatic messages to send to you, Judge Wells, and Dr. Sullivan if I didn't input a safety code every 30 minutes tonight. And the glass switch? Simple misdirection? Melissa was focused on the toast timing. She didn't notice the swap. Rodriguez reviewed the restaurant's security footage on her computer. "Our cameras caught the switch too. Perfect angle from the service station." "Excellent. But Mr. Griffiths, you let her drug herself. Some might call that entrapment." "She chose to bring illegal drugs. She chose to crush them into wine. She chose to drug someone. The only thing I chose was which glass she drank from." "Fair point?" We moved to financial evidence. These are Melissa's bank records from the last 8 months. I scrolled through highlighted transactions. Regular deposits from unknown sources. Always cash. Always under $10,000 to avoid federal reporting. Drug sales? Most likely. She maintained connections at Meridian Pharmaceuticals. Rodriguez studied the amounts. "This shows serious criminal enterprise. It shows motive. She was already stealing from multiple sources. My estate was just the biggest prize." "What about Ryan?" I pulled up his text messages. Ryan knew everything. He helped plan the timing. He researched the legal requirements for incompetency declarations. He was fully complicit. Completely. But why? He's your son. He would inherit eventually anyway. I showed her my actual will. Ryan gets 20%. The rest goes to charity and research foundations. 20% of $15 million is still $3 million. But Melissa wanted it all, and she wanted it now. Rodriguez closed her laptop. Mr. Griffiths, this is one of the most thoroughly documented elder abuse cases I've ever seen. I had good teachers. Teachers? 30 years fighting corporate fraud. You learn to build airtight cases. Well, this case is definitely airtight. A knock interrupted us. Officer Martinez entered. Detective, the woman is awake. She's asking for a lawyer. Already? She's coherent enough to know she's in serious trouble. Rodriguez stood. Mr. Griffiths, we'll need you to testify eventually, but for tonight, you're free to go. What charges are they facing? Elder abuse, attempted drugging, conspiracy to commit fraud, theft and possession of controlled substances. Prison time? Substantial, especially with premeditation this clear. I packed up my laptop. Detective, there's one more thing. What? Melissa recorded everything on her phone. Videos of our house, photos of documents, voice memos, planning the timeline. How do you know? Because I've been monitoring her cloud backup account for 2 weeks. Rodriguez stared at me. You hacked her phone? She used my Wi-Fi network. I simply preserved data that was flowing through my own router. Is that legal? My network, my house, my data. Ask Judge Wells if you need legal clarification. You really thought of everything. I had to. They weren't just stealing money. They were stealing my dignity, my autonomy, and my right to grieve Margaret in peace. Margaret was your wife? For 52 years. Tonight was supposed to honor her memory. I stood to leave. Instead, it became evidence that I raised a son who values money more than family. I'm sorry, Mr. Griffiths. Don't be sorry, Detective. Be thorough. Make sure they face every consequence they've earned. We will. As I walked out of the police station, my phone buzzed with news alerts. Silicon Valley tech mogul foils inheritance scam at wife's memorial. Daughter-in-law drugs wrong glass and failed elder abuse plot. Rohypnol backfires. Family fraud exposed at memorial dinner. The story was already viral. By tomorrow, everyone would know exactly what Ryan and Melissa had attempted, and exactly how thoroughly they'd failed. I arrived home at midnight to 17 missed calls. The first was from my attorney, James Morrison. Drake, I saw the news. Are you safe? Do you need legal representation? The second was from DataVault's current CEO. Holy shit, Drake. The whole tech world is talking about tonight. You're trending on Twitter. I ignored the rest and walked through my empty house. Margaret's memorial photos still covered the kitchen table. 52 years of marriage documented in hundreds of images. Our wedding day, Ryan's birth, family vacations, holiday celebrations, all of it corrupted by tonight's betrayal. My phone rang. Judge Wells. Drake, I wanted to check on you. I'm fine, Patricia. Are you really? Tonight was traumatic for everyone. Less traumatic than being drugged and robbed. True, but you just lost your son. I sat down among Margaret's photos. I lost my son months ago. Tonight just made it official. The media attention is going to be intense. I expected that. And the legal proceedings will take months. I have excellent lawyers. What about your family relationships? Is there any chance of reconciliation with Ryan? I picked up a photo of Ryan's college graduation. Margaret and I flanked him, beaming with pride. Patricia, if your child drugged your wine to steal your inheritance, would you reconcile? I don't know. I do know. Some betrayals are unforgivable, even from family, especially from family. She was quiet for a moment. Drake, I have to ask, did you know they'd actually go through with it? I hoped they wouldn't, but I planned for them to try. And you were prepared to drink the drugged wine if necessary. If I hadn't seen the switch opportunity, yes. That's incredibly dangerous. Not as dangerous as signing away $15 million while unconscious. But you could have died. Margaret and I always said we'd rather die with dignity than live as victims. Another call buzzed in. Reuters. I have to go, Patricia. The media vultures are circling. Don't talk to them without your lawyer. I wasn't planning to, but I was wrong. At 12:47 a.m., my doorbell rang. Through the security monitor, I saw a young reporter with a camera crew. I almost ignored it. Then I reconsidered. I opened the door. Mr. Griffiths, I'm Jennifer Walsh from Channel 7 News. Could we have a brief statement about tonight's events? What would you like to know? Is it true your daughter-in-law tried to drug you? The police have video evidence of her putting Rohypnol in my wine. For what purpose? To incapacitate me while I signed fraudulent estate documents. How much money was involved? $15.2 million. And you switched the wine glasses? I protected myself from being drugged. Some people might say what you did was cruel. She's hospitalized. I looked directly into the camera. Some people might say attempting to drug your elderly father-in-law at his wife's memorial dinner is cruel. But I'm not here to judge other people's morality. What's your message to families dealing with similar situations? Trust but verify. Document everything. And remember that grief doesn't make you stupid. It makes you careful. Any final thoughts? Yes. I held up a photo of Margaret. This woman taught me that character reveals itself during crisis. Tonight proved she was right. Thank you for your time. After they left, I sat in Margaret's study and reviewed the evening's events. The police had everything they needed. Video evidence, financial records, text messages, medical proof. Ryan and Melissa would face federal charges. Elder abuse across state lines becomes a federal crime when it involves wire transfers. Their sentences would likely be substantial. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Sullivan. Drake, Melissa is stable. Rohypnol is clearing her system. She'll be discharged to police custody tomorrow. Good. Justice delayed is justice denied. Another text from Detective Rodriguez. Mr. Griffiths, preliminary charges filed. Arraignment Monday. We'll need your testimony eventually, but the video evidence speaks for itself. And finally, a message from my attorney. Drake, reviewed all evidence. Airtight case. Recommend minimal media contact until trial. Also, suggest enhanced home security given public attention. I walked upstairs to my bedroom. Margaret's side of the closet still held her clothes. Her jewelry box sat on the dresser. The diamond necklace Melissa wanted so badly. $43,000 worth of stones Margaret wore twice per year. Now it would go to charity, along with everything else Melissa thought she could steal. I opened my laptop and accessed the bank accounts. Tomorrow, I'd begin transferring assets to trusts, educational scholarships, medical research, technology grants. Everything Ryan and Melissa tried to steal would help people they'd never met. People who understood that money is a tool, not a goal. My phone rang one final time. Unknown number. Hello? Dad? Ryan's voice from jail. Ryan, Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? We just wanted to help. To protect you. By drugging me? That was Melissa's idea. I thought we'd just talk you into signing. At Margaret's memorial dinner. Dad, please. I love you. I made a mistake, but I love you. I sat in the dark bedroom Margaret and I had shared for decades. Ryan, love isn't taking advantage of grief. Love isn't stealing from family. Love isn't crushing pills into your father's wine. I know, but we can fix this. No, son, we can't. I hung up. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. The story exploded across social media overnight. By 6 a.m., Drake Griffiths was trending nationwide. The hashtag #WineSwap had 40,000 mentions. Financial news networks led with tech mogul outsmarts inheritance scammers. Social media was brutal. Imagine drugging someone at their spouse's memorial dinner. The audacity of stealing from a grieving widower. Drake Griffiths is a legend for this reverse Uno card move. But the real consequences were just beginning. At 8:30 a.m., Detective Rodriguez called with updates. Mr. Griffiths, we've discovered additional evidence during the apartment search. What kind of evidence? Melissa had detailed floor plans of your house, notes about your daily routine, photos of your safe combination, a complete invasion plan. Gets worse. We found correspondence with a private investigator. She'd been surveillance you for months. Professional level planning. Also found drug purchase records. She bought enough Rohypnol for multiple attempts. The scope of their conspiracy was staggering. What about Ryan? His phone contained internet searches for elderly incompetency procedures and emergency medical power of attorney. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. When's the arraignment? Monday morning, federal courthouse downtown. Both defendants will appear together. I'll be there. Mr. Griffiths, you should know they're already plea bargaining. Really? Melissa's attorney contacted the prosecutor this morning. She wants to testify against Ryan in exchange for reduced charges. Honor among thieves. There's more. Ryan's attorney is claiming he was manipulated by Melissa, says she controlled the planning. Even in jail, they're betraying each other. Typical in conspiracy cases. No loyalty among co-conspirators. At noon, my attorney James Morrison arrived with legal documents. Drake, we need to discuss media strategy and asset protection. What do you recommend? First, limit all interviews. The prosecution needs clean testimony without media complications. Agreed. Second, transfer liquid assets to protected trusts immediately. If this case drags out, there could be attempts to freeze your accounts. Already started. Third, consider hiring private security. This level of media attention attracts all kinds of attention. I've got the house covered. And personal protection when you leave? I showed him my phone's tracking app. Data Vault still provides security consulting. Former employees have been monitoring my safety since the story broke. Good, because there's something else. He opened his laptop. 3 other families have contacted us. Similar situations. Adult children attempting financial manipulation of elderly parents. How similar? One involved forged power of attorney documents. Another was unauthorized bank transfers. The third was attempted conservatorship based on false medical claims. All inspired by tonight's news coverage? All discovered because your case gave them courage to investigate suspicious behavior. The ripple effects were spreading. Drake, you've accidentally become a symbol, a wealthy senior who fought back successfully. I didn't ask for that. Doesn't matter. Elder advocacy groups are calling you a hero. Financial fraud investigators want your security footage for training purposes. And the downside? Every scammer in the country now knows you're worth $15 million. That afternoon, Margaret's sister Helen called from Phoenix. Drake, I saw the news. Are you okay? I'm fine, Helen. I can't believe Ryan would do this. And at Margaret's memorial. Neither could I. Margaret would be devastated. Margaret would be proud that I didn't let them succeed. What happens now? They face justice. I move forward. Alone? I looked around the empty house. I've been alone since Margaret died. Tonight just made it official. You still have family. You have me. You have Margaret's cousins. I know. But the family I built, Ryan, Melissa, future grandchildren, that's gone. Maybe Ryan will realize his mistake. Helen, he helped plan to drug me. Some mistakes are unforgivable. That evening, Judge Wells stopped by with dinner. Thought you might not be eating much. Not much appetite. Understandable. We sat in Margaret's kitchen, surrounded by memorial flowers from last night. Drake, I've been thinking about what you said, about character revealing itself during crisis. Margaret's favorite saying. She was right, but I think you revealed something too. What's that? That intelligence and preparation trump greed and desperation. Every time. The legal community is talking about your documentation, perfect evidence collection. 30 years of corporate warfare teaches valuable lessons. Those lessons just protected your legacy and exposed theirs. Judge Wells raised her coffee cup. To Margaret, and to justice served. To justice served? Outside, media vans still lined the street. The story wasn't ending anytime soon, but the outcome was already decided. Ryan and Melissa had gambled everything on one night's deception. They'd lost everything to one moment's preparation. 6 months later, the legal proceedings concluded. Melissa received 8 years federal prison for elder abuse, fraud, and drug trafficking. Ryan got 4 years for conspiracy and theft. Both were ordered to pay full restitution, $47,000 in stolen funds, plus legal costs. They'd appealed everything. All appeals were denied. I attended neither sentencing hearing. Some chapters deserved to close completely. The house felt different now. Security cameras still monitored every corner, but the paranoia was gone. I knew exactly who my enemies were, and they were safely locked away. Margaret's memorial garden bloomed beautifully this spring. I'd hired a landscape designer to create something permanent, something worthy of her memory. The media attention gradually faded, but the impact remained. Elder advocacy groups still referenced the Griffiths case in their literature. Financial fraud seminars used my security footage as training material. I'd received over 3,000 letters from families sharing similar stories. Adult children stealing from elderly parents, caretakers manipulating vulnerable seniors, professional scammers targeting grieving widows. The response convinced me to establish the Margaret Griffiths Foundation for Elder Protection. Starting budget, $5 million from my estate. Our first initiative, free security consultations for seniors who suspect family fraud. Our second, legal defense funds for elderly victims of financial abuse. Margaret would have loved the irony. The money Ryan and Melissa tried to steal was now protecting other people from similar schemes. Last week, Detective Rodriguez called with interesting news. Mr. Griffiths, thought you'd want to know. Melissa's trying to sell her story to a Netflix documentary crew. Really? She claims you entrapped her, says she's the real victim. Of course she does. The good news? No legitimate producer will touch it. Your evidence is too overwhelming. And the bad news? She'll probably keep trying. Narcissists rarely accept responsibility. I wasn't worried. Truth has a way of surviving manipulation. My attorney had prepared comprehensive cease and desist documentation. Anyone attempting to profit from distorting the facts would face immediate legal action. This afternoon, I finished updating my will. The final version leaves everything to charitable foundations: education, medical research, elder protection, and technology grants. Ryan's inheritance, $0. Not as punishment, but as natural consequence. Someone who attempts to steal their inheritance doesn't deserve one. Judge Wells had questioned this decision. Drake, 4 years in prison might teach Ryan important lessons. People can change. Perhaps. But trust, once broken, can't be rebuilt. Even family trust? Especially family trust. The new will includes one personal bequest. Margaret's jewelry goes to Helen's granddaughter, a young woman studying medicine who's never asked me for anything, someone who understands that inheritance is privilege, not entitlement. Next month marks Margaret's first anniversary. I'm planning a small celebration at the house. Just close friends. People who loved her for reasons that had nothing to do with money. Judge Wells, Dr. Sullivan, a few neighbors, and Margaret's actual family. No cameras, no media, no drama. Just memories of a woman who taught me that character reveals itself during crisis. She was right, as usual. This year taught me other lessons too. Grief doesn't make you vulnerable, it makes you careful. Intelligence beats desperation every time. Documentation's the best protection, and some betrayals create permanent boundaries. I sleep better now, not because the danger has passed, but because I understand it clearly. Family isn't about blood or DNA. It's about people who respect your vulnerability instead of exploiting it. People who honor your grief instead of weaponizing it. People who love you for who you are, not what you own. Margaret understood that. Now I do too. If you've watched this far, thank you for listening to an old man's story. And if you're dealing with family members who seem more interested in your assets than your welfare, remember this. Trust but verify. Document everything, and never underestimate the power of switching glasses at exactly the right moment. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. And subscribe if this story reminded you that sometimes quiet intelligence beats loud greed. This has been my story. Margaret would be proud of how it ended.